In the hushed expanse of the university library's silent room, where even the rustle of a page could draw disapproving glances, Lila first noticed Victor. She was the assistant curator, tasked with maintaining the rare manuscript section, a role that suited her introverted nature perfectly, allowing her to lose herself in dusty tomes and forgotten histories without the chaos of conversation. The silent room was her sanctuary, a vast chamber with high vaulted ceilings, lined with oak tables and lamps that cast soft pools of light over scholars bent in concentration, the air thick with the scent of aged paper and polished wood. Victor appeared one autumn afternoon, a tall figure in a worn tweed jacket, his silver-streaked hair neatly combed, carrying a leather satchel that seemed as ancient as the books he requested. He always chose the same corner table, farthest from the entrance, where shadows gathered like secrets. Lila's job involved delivering requested items, and on his first visit, she placed a 19th century journal before him without a word, as per the room's strict no-speaking policy. He nodded thanks, his eyes deep brown, almost black, meeting hers for a fraction longer than necessary, sparking an inexplicable curiosity in her. Over the weeks, his requests grew more specific, obscure texts on genealogy, lost lineages, and hidden family scandals from Europe's turbulent past. Lila found herself anticipating his arrivals, her heart quickening as she prepared the materials, wondering what drove this quiet man to delve so deeply into the echoes of history. One day, after placing a fragile ledger on his table, she lingered a moment, and he slid a small note across. "Thank you for your efficiency. These volumes are invaluable." It was innocuous, yet it broke the isolation she had grown accustomed to since her divorce 2 years prior, a solitude she wore like armor. She responded the next time with her own note, "Glad to assist. What era fascinates you most?" Thus began their silent dialogue. Scraps of paper passed like clandestine messages in a world where voices were forbidden. Victor's replies revealed a man of depth, sharing snippets of his travels through forgotten archives in Prague and Vienna, his passion for unraveling familial mysteries that time had buried. Lila, in turn, confided her own interest in heraldry, how coats of arms told stories of betrayal and loyalty, mirroring her own life's fractures. The notes evolved from polite exchanges to personal revelations. She wrote of her estranged sister, the one who vanished after a family quarrel, and he responded with empathy, describing his own losses, a wife taken too soon by illness, leaving him to wander libraries in search of meaning. In this enforced quiet, their connection bloomed subtly, each note a thread weaving them closer, making the silent room feel less like a void and more like a cocoon. Lila began to notice details, the faint scar on his hand, perhaps from an old accident, the way he adjusted his glasses when pondering a passage. She wondered if he felt the same pull, this unspoken affinity that transcended the barriers of sound. As winter approached, the room grew colder, but their exchanges warmed her, filling the emptiness she hadn't realized was so profound. Yet beneath it all lurked a nagging doubt. Why did his research focus increasingly on 20th century adoptions in her hometown? She pushed it aside, savoring the unexpected companionship that had infiltrated her guarded world, unaware that the silence held truths waiting to shatter everything. As the months unfolded in the library's silent room, Lila's interactions with Victor deepened into a ritual that anchored her days, transforming the sterile quiet into a space charged with anticipation. She arrived earlier each morning, ensuring the manuscripts he favored were ready, her notes tucked into the pages like hidden treasures. Victor's responses grew more intimate, revealing layers of a life marked by wanderlust and regret. He wrote of his youth in a small coastal town, where the sea's roar had been his only companion after his parents' untimely death in a boating accident, fueling his obsession with tracing bloodlines to reclaim a sense of belonging. Lila shared her own vulnerabilities, the ache of her failed marriage to a man who valued ambition over affection, leaving her to rebuild in this haven of books. Their papered confessions created an invisible bridge, one where she felt seen without the vulnerability of spoken words, his elegant handwriting a balm to her isolation. One crisp spring day, he passed a note asking about her family crest, prompting her to sketch it hastily on scrap paper, describing how it symbolized resilience amid adversity. His reply praised her artistry, adding, "It reminds me of my own searches. Sometimes the past holds keys to who we truly are." This sparked a subtle shift. Lila began researching alongside him in her off hours, delving into the same archives, her curiosity mirroring his. She noticed how his presence altered the room's atmosphere, the way other patrons seemed distant, While he became the focal point, his concentrated frown giving way to a soft smile when their eyes met across the tables. Conflict simmered beneath this harmony. Lila's supervisor, a stern woman named Miss Hargrove, eyed their frequent material exchanges with suspicion, once whispering in the staff lounge that excessive patron interaction could blur professional lines. Lila dismissed it, but doubt crept in when Victor's requests turned personal, inquiring about local records from the year of her birth. She confided this unease in a note, and he responded reassuringly, "Knowledge liberates, even if it unsettles." Their connection felt like a delicate ecosystem, thriving in silence but fragile against external pressures. One evening, as the library emptied, she found a longer missive waiting, stories of his failed attempts to find distant relatives, the loneliness that drove him here. Touched, Lila wrote back about her dreams of reconciliation with her sister, feeling a kinship that bordered on affection. Yet, as summer's heat filtered through the high windows, casting long shadows, she uncovered an anomaly in the logs. Victor's borrowed items aligned suspiciously with her family's obscure history, including a file on wartime displacements she hadn't known existed. The silent room, once a refuge, now hummed with unspoken questions, her trust wavering like a page in the breeze. She confronted this internally, weighing the warmth of their bond against the growing sense that he harbored motives beyond scholarly pursuit. Still, she continued the exchanges, drawn by the magnetic pull of his intellect and empathy, hoping the truth was benign. Little did she know, the silence was building toward a revelation that would redefine everything, turning their haven into a chamber of confrontation. Tension coiled tighter in the silent room as Lila grappled with the discrepancies in Victor's research patterns, her once eager note passing now laced with hesitation. She spent sleepless nights poring over digital archives at home, cross-referencing his requests with her own background, uncovering threads that led uncomfortably close to her adoptive parents' records from the post-war era. The conflict escalated when Miss Hargrove pulled her aside one afternoon, warning that a patron's excessive focus on personal histories could signal unethical intent, urging discretion. Lila nodded compliance, but inwardly rebelled, her attachment to Victor clashing with professional duty. Their notes persisted, though hers grew guarded. She shared less, probing more about his true objectives. Victor's replies remained eloquent, deflecting with tales of universal human quests for identity, but she detected a subtle evasion, a careful wording that heightened her suspicions. One humid July day, as thunder rumbled distantly outside, she slipped him a direct query. "Why my town's records specifically?" His response came swiftly. "Coincidence? Or perhaps fate guiding us to shared discoveries?" Unsatisfied, Lila delved deeper, accessing restricted databases during a late shift, her heart pounding as she unearthed a connection. Victor's real name appeared in a genealogy forum, linked to investigations of displaced children from her region. The silent room felt oppressive now, its quiet no longer comforting but accusatory, amplifying her internal turmoil. She confronted the ethical dilemma: continue the facade or sever the bond. Yet the pull of their connection lingered, memories of his empathetic words soothing her like a familiar melody. Conflict peaked when she found an old photograph in a borrowed volume, a young woman resembling her mother, annotated in Victor's hand with questions about lineage. Panic surged. Was he a fraud, using her position for personal gain? She crafted a note demanding clarity, but before passing it, observed him from afar, noting the weariness in his posture, the way he rubbed his temples as if burdened by invisible weights. Empathy warred with betrayal, her mind racing through scenarios. Perhaps he was a distant relative, or worse, a con artist preying on vulnerabilities. The room's silence magnified every scratch of pen on paper, every suppressed sigh. As weeks blurred, Lila's resolve hardened. She reduced interactions, delivering items without notes, feeling the void acutely. Victor persisted, his messages pleading for continuation. "Our dialogue has illuminated paths I thought lost." Torn, she responded sparingly, the conflict eroding her peace. Finally, unable to endure the uncertainty, she planned a revelation, inviting him via note to meet in the room after hours, when silence would force truth. The stage was set for confrontation, the air thick with impending storm. As she realized this unexpected alliance had unearthed not just historical facts, but her own capacity for doubt and desire. The silent room, witness to their budding affinity, now loomed as the arena where illusions would crumble, leading to an unforeseen climax that neither could anticipate. In the dim after-hours glow of the silent room, Where emergency lights cast elongated shadows across the empty tables, Lila faced Victor. The enforced quiet now, a voluntary pact as they sat opposite each other. The weight of unspoken words hanging heavy. She had arranged this meeting through a final note, her hand trembling as she wrote, demanding answers without the buffer of paper. Victor arrived punctually, his expression a mix of resignation and relief, placing his satchel down with deliberate care. Without preamble, Lila slid a compiled dossier across printouts of his research trails intertwined with her family history and gestured for explanation, her eyes fierce in the low light. He sighed, the sound echoing unnaturally in the vast space, and began writing on a notepad, honoring the room's essence even now. I am your biological uncle. Your mother, my sister, gave you up during the war's chaos to protect you from our family's scandals. The words blurred as Lila read, a torrent of emotions crashing through her shock, denial, then a reluctant acceptance as fragments of her childhood puzzles aligned. He continued scripting the tale, their family torn by political betrayals, his lifelong search for her after discovering the adoption papers decades later, using the library as a neutral ground to approach without alarming her. The unexpected truth wasn't mere kinship, but the revelation of her heritage's dark, underbelly espionage ties that could endanger her if exposed. Conflict resolved in bittersweet clarity. Lila felt betrayed by the deception, yet grateful for the connection that had softened the blow. Their note exchanges a gentle prelude to this bombshell. She wrote back, "Why not tell me sooner?" His reply, "Fear of rejection, of disrupting your life." As minutes stretched, they transitioned to whispered voices, the silence yielding to necessity, sharing stories that fleshed out the abstract, her mother's sacrifices, his solitary quests. The ending veered toward reconciliation laced with caution. Lila chose distance, not embracing the family tie fully but agreeing to occasional contact, wary of the shadows it cast. Victor nodded understanding, leaving with a promise of no further intrusion unless invited. Alone in the room, Lila absorbed the quiet anew, the truth transforming it from a place of budding romance-like affinity to one of profound self-discovery. She realized the connection was never romantic but familial, a redirection that healed old wounds while opening new uncertainties. Walking out into the night, she felt unburdened yet forever changed. The silent room's legacy, a reminder that truths emerge not in noise but in stillness, leading not to happily ever after, but to a nuanced path of guarded hope and independent strength.